Hi, in this quick tutorial I'm going to show you how we can use a variety of reading strategies to better understand any piece of text, including this, which is a paragraph from a video game review. So what I've done is I've put the paragraph in front of us here, and I've also added 4 strategies that I plan on using through this video so you can see how those can be applied. So let's start by perhaps just reading along, and I'll try and add in those strategies where they're appropriate. So let's take a look at our topic sentence. The game's turn-based combat deviates from established RPG norms in a lot of interesting ways. So right away, I noticed this word deviates, and I found myself wondering what that might mean. So I think I'll try to use context clues to figure out what that might mean. Now I can see here I've got established, so that gives me some idea, some feeling of what this might mean, but I've got to look at the other context clues, and context clues essentially the stuff that surrounds this thing we're trying to understand. In this case, context clues would be the other words, sentences, and meaning that the writer has used to describe this text. So let's take a look at what else we got here. First, characters do not level up. Instead, they randomly gain stat boosts after battle. Secondly, most characters can equip any weapons and armor they want, but they need to use said weapons in combat in order to gain proficiency and skills, which, much like stat gains, are learned at seemingly random moments. Okay, so I'm actually going to deal with another skill here, another strategy, which is previous knowledge. Previous knowledge, I know a little bit about RPGs, and I know that it's kind of unusual for characters in RPGs to equip any armor weapon they want, right? Usually those things are tied to a specific class. So for example, a barbarian will only use certain items, a wizard would only use certain ones. And 2, that the user improves your skills by using them in combat. And I'm familiar with that. I know that certainly in some games you can improve your character's ability to use a weapon by just using it again and again and again. But the fact that it's random, I don't think that happens very much in RPGs. So right here, these 3 clues, I find myself understanding this game a little bit better because I have some previous knowledge about how RPGs are constructed. I would suggest that this RPG so far sounds really unusual. So now I think I want to go back and use my context clue strategy to better understand deviates. If you remember, that sentence is the game's turn-based combat deviates from established RPG norms in a lot of interesting ways. Well, given that through previous knowledge I have a better understanding of what this writer might mean by RPG norms, those things we usually see, I think I can infer that deviate means something like to break away from. So if we imagine that in this place we put break away from, so the game's turn-based combat breaks away from established RPG norms in lots of interesting ways. Yeah, I think that sounds right. I think I can use the context clues to better understand that topic sentence. Okay. So at the next sentence, thirdly, well, I'm going to stop there for a second because what I notice is that this is not the first time that the writer has used this kind of, well, what's a fancy term called an ordinal, basically something that orders the sentence. You can see here that this writer's actually been using this throughout the entire paragraph. First, secondly, thirdly, and building an argument, right? And building evidence. And so all of these points, first, second, third, are establishing or proving that this game is deviating from RPG norms. And so by analyzing the structure and by looking for that first, second, third, I can clearly identify the 3 major points that this writer is using to support their claim. So let's go back and take a look at this claim. Thirdly, combat formations are hugely important here. Depending on their position and the role, offense, defense, or support a character is assigned, the effectiveness of attacks and skills is altered. And skills have individual levels tied to the specific position a character is in. Now, I do find myself going back to my previous knowledge of RPGs and thinking, again, that this sounds really unusual, that the place I stand as a character from offense, defense, or support has its own tree. And certainly some games have those trees for, like, say, a tank kind of character, that sort of thing. But to have it based on where I'm standing seems really unusual. So I think the kind of question I want to ask, I think I want to do a prediction here. And what I find myself asking is, I wonder what this might look like. I wonder how in the world of this game, the game creators have created this scenario where, depending on where I stand and what specific position I take, that the gameplay changes. And I wonder, another question I might ask is, how quickly does the game realize that that the character has moved and taken on another position? I really wonder what that looks like. So there you have it. I've taken these 4 strategies: context clues, previous knowledge, analyzing structures, and predicting or asking questions to better understand this paragraph. And in the next video, I will use some of these skills, but I won't tell you what skills I am using. And so it'll be up to you to identify those for us.